record this session. We'd like to welcome everyone to the Master Gardeners Lunch and Learn. Master Naturalists are also involved with our project. This is our Lunch and Learn. So this is about giving you guys an opportunity to have a little discussion, learn a little bit about a topic area, and then some more discussion, any of your questions and answers that you might have. Gail DeVilbiss and myself, Chris Lukien, are on today to also help. We are the program coordinators for Unit 23, and we'd like to welcome Leora and Julie. And Julie, we'll go ahead if you want to share your screen, or if you want to do your introduction first and then share your screen, however you want to do it. Thank you today.
Okay, thanks, Chris. You know, I don't know if you guys can see this. You see this shirt? It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I wore this because I don't think everything's going to be fine today, but we will see. Anyway, Chris asked us to do this, and I had this grandiose idea of maybe doing a garden tour in Leora's daffodils. And then I got thinking, well, you know, what if it's bad weather? What if it rains? What if it's windy? What if the internet's down? And so we quickly put that aside and decided not to do that. So what we did do is a bunch of short clips of the blooming daffodils. And that actually worked out really well because then we got pictures of them when they were the prettiest and when they were in full bloom. And as you know, daffodils don't all bloom at the same time. So, and just to give you an idea, there's 13,000 varieties of daffodils. And Leora has had at least 800 of those. So anybody that's got 800 daffodils has got a lot. But anyway, just to give you a little background on Leora too, he's also a member of the Greater St. Louis Daffodil Society and has been for 20 years. And so we're really lucky to have her in our organization and certainly today to share everything that she knows. I just kind of laugh. Everything I know about daffodils, I could put on one page, but what Leora knows could go in a book. So anyway, our video today is about 15 minutes long, and we certainly hope you enjoy it. And you can ask whatever questions of Leora, not me, but as we get going. So I'm going to hope this works. My granddaughter did the editing for me on this video, and so hopefully I can get this to work. Let's see, the other.
Okay, so you want to, yeah, share, do your new share screen.
See, I did that. I'm just reading notes here. I got to go to advanced, middle. I did that. I'm going to go to double click video. And now I have to go here. Like I said, bear with me here. She even marked it.
All right.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And let's see. I think she told me to turn up the volume here.
Is everybody seeing it? I'm not seeing it.
You're not seeing it?
I personally am not, but if everybody else is, it might be on my end.
I see it.
I can see her.
All right.
Laura, does everybody?
In a burgundy blouse.
Does everybody see Leora?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to start the video, and
Okay.
here we go.
We wanted to start out today talking about daffodil divisions. Daffodils are divided into 13 different divisions. They're divided by their shape, their size, and their growing habit. They have to do this especially for a show because you wouldn't want to show two daffodils against each other. It would be like oranges and apples. So this would be in one division and this would be in the other. So we'll start out with this one. Number 1 division is a trumpet. That means the trumpet is longer than the petals are. The next we have is large cup, and it's just about equal, the cup and the petals. Small cup, of course, would be a smaller cup. Then number 4 is a double. I usually have Tahiti for a double. It's bright orange and I just saw this in the garden and couldn't resist. It's called Duration. It's white with a little bit of yellow in the center, and that's for a double. 5 is Triandrus. It's called Thalia, and it has more than one bloom to a stalk, and they're small and usually fragrant. Thalia is really popular. You can buy this just about anywhere. And number 6 is Cyclaminius, and it's the one that, and I think it's an earlier one because I couldn't find one in the garden just now. 7 is jonquil. This is a jonquil. It's called pipit. And jonquils have narrow foliage. They're fragrant. They have more than one to a stem. And a lot of people call all of these jonquils. Well, they aren't. Just these are jonquils. These are all daffodils, the common name. And they're all narcissus, which is the genus or the family name. Then we come to 8. It's a Tazetta. And some varieties of this can have as many as 20 blooms to one stem. The stems are very strong. This one's called Avalanche, and it could have up to 8 probably, but not today. Number 9 is Poeticus, and this is the one you see at Grandma's house. It's a really old flower, but so durable. This is a true old Poeticus. Then the hybridizers get a hold of it, and here's what they've done to improve the Poeticus. But sometimes you like these the best. That's a 9 Poeticus. 10 is Bulbocodium, which does not grow here. It grows mostly in California. 11 is the split cup. It's when the cup is split back and lays back on the petals. Today is the first day of spring, and here we have several clumps of ice follies on the south side of the shed. Ice follies are in the category of 2WW. So 2 up, and W is white, all white. But look, they don't look all white. The center, or the corona, is yellow. And this is the way it is a lot with daffodils. They open as yellow, and then as they mature, they turn white. So these in a few days will be all white. And that's how the hybridizer registered them originally. Ice follies is so common. You see them everywhere. They grow so well and multiply. There's one place you don't see them, and that is at a daffodil show. Because you can hardly ever find a perfect bloom. And of course in the show, the judges require a perfect bloom. I have seen ice follies a few times, but not very often in a show. But from a distance, doesn't really matter. In a bouquet, they look so pretty. Here we have fire alarm. It's a 2YR. 2 stands for large cup. Yellow is the petals, and they call the cup red. And this is hybridized by William Pennell back in 1972. He was a very old hybridizer out in Virginia. We had the pleasure to meet him one time, and at any of the daffodil auctions, there was no limit to what he would spend to get a flower. He was rather entertaining. He is deceased now. But here is fire alarm. Sometimes different soil and different climate will change the color of the flower. Like in Virginia, where Mr. Pennell lived, I would imagine that the cup was more red than this. To me, this is orange, bright orange, but that's very nice. As you can see, the wind is blowing quite a bit here. These daffodils are on the south side of the house, so they are some of the very first to bloom. They have been here so long, I don't really know the proper name, but I'm guessing it would be Dutch Master. Here are some patches of tete-a-tete. These flowers have probably been blooming about 2 weeks now, and through 4 days of pour. Here is an example of timing. Sometimes you might want a combination of bulbs to bloom together. And here we have tete-a-tete in the foreground and Dutch Master in the background, which from a distance, like the others, from a distance it looks very nice. But if you will notice, the poor little miniatures, they are on their last leg. Although they don't look too bad. Here we have a daffodil called Johnny Quest. Look how straight and tall this daffodil is standing after it rained all day yesterday. This afternoon the sun came out and this flower just looked amazing from across the garden. This little miniature has probably been in the ground for 20 years. Every year it's very faithful to bloom, but doesn't really multiply. Not much. Here we have Casada. It is a split cup. As you can see, the yellow part has been split and ruffled and lays back against the petal, right? And the corona or cup is yellow. This little flower tends to be shy. It likes to hide its little head. Here we have the buds of a Tazetta, which is a Division 8. It can have as many as 20 blooms on one stem. As you can see, this poor little daffodil is getting crowded out by an ornamental grass. There needs to be a lot of digging going on here. But anyway, back to the Tazetta. This variety, Tazetta, is Avalanche. Here we have a daffodil called Rapture. This daffodil has been blooming for several days. In fact, it has bloomed through 4 days of pouring rain. But it's still very bright and cheerful. It is a 6YY, and a 6th division is a Cyclobineus. Get up here closer. As the sun comes out, it will probably straighten up more. Here we have a clump of King Alfred daffodils right after a rain. They are already trying to straighten up. King Alfred varieties back in the 30s and 40s.
This is a row of many years ago, and he has since passed away from Alzheimer's. But every time I see them, it just reminds me so much of him. And this is a Division 3 small cup. And I'm not really sure, but it kind of looks like either a Jamestown or it could be a ringtone, or maybe neither. But I've always thought they were just really pretty flowers, and it always brings a smile to my face when I see them. This is a Division 4 double, and it's called Tahiti. And it's actually one of my favorite daffodils, just because of its size and because it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's a handful of flower. This ugly looking daffodil was dug up from a homestead, and I planted it thinking that maybe it had just become too crowded, and if I had planted it over, it would somehow become prettier, but it didn't. And so I asked Leora to take a look at these, and she told me that these are actually very old 1640s, and they're called Van Scion. They definitely are not very attractive, but just simply because they're old really has a meaning now. This is a daffodil that I picked up, I think, at Walmart. So I really don't know the name, but if I look in the catalogs, it kind of looks like could be maybe a Martha Stewart. Not really sure, but it's a pretty one. This daffodil is a Barrett Browning dating to 1940, and it has done really very well for me. This one from my neighbor's yard. And although butter and eggs and the Van Scion are sometimes interchanged, or people look at them as being interchanged, they're not. The butter and eggs is more of a yellow daffodil as opposed to having the green in it. I wanted to include this pansy only because in one of our earlier Zoom meetings, somebody was talking about keeping pansies over the winter in a pot. And I actually plant mine in the fall every year, and they do very well outside. They'll actually bloom in December and January, depending on the weather. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, ladies. That was great. So there is a question, and we'll kind of start off with some of the questions. How many years can daffodil bulbs rebloom?
I would say it depends on the variety completely. Some would rebloom for years and years, just like the ones Julie just showed from her homestead. And others, some of those really expensive, newly hybridized ones might only bloom 3 or 4 years. they've been so hybridized that they're just not natural. They don't bloom a lot.
Okay. Is there a certain variety that you wanted to ask about? It says D Sunder. I'm sorry. You can unmute yourself. You're on here. If you have a further variety you want to ask about.
No, I'm a master gardener up in
Oh,
Cook
okay.
County. And one of our municipalities is always constantly growing tulips. I don't have anything against tulips, but they dig them out and they buy more expensive ones the following year and dig them out, and because they don't rely that they're going to rebloom. But the daffodils always rebloom. So I wanted to try to say to them that as long as you don't get the high hybridized ones, that it might be a better investment for the community to have the daffodils. The other thing is, it's true we have to keep the foliage until it yellows, correct? I mean, that seems to be the going statement about daffodils, to get the energy back to the bulb.
Yes, definitely. That's the hardest thing to do with a daffodil too, because this foliage does come rather unsightly. But we have kind of found that to plant daylilies around or before, in front of, or so on, their foliage then will come and cover up the daffodil's foliage.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question was, so where's the best place to purchase?
The best place are some catalogs. I really like Brent and Becky's. They're out in Virginia. Brent was actually at our herb show the last time we had a show. They're very dependable. They're an old family company. And if you order a certain variety, you will get that variety. So you can, really depend on them. And Van Burgundine, they're really good too. Brex can come and go. You can't be sure about Brex. I hope it's okay to say all these names on here.
And since he came to the herb show, you have had recommendation, have seen his product, so you can talk about his product. That's okay.
Okay.
So another one was, if you have to dig them up, besides the fall, when is the best time to replant?
Well, definitely the fall, but sometimes you see one now you need to move and you're afraid you'll lose track of where it is by the fall. So if you have the hole ready, it's okay. I find this may not be official, but you can dig it now and just replant it in a hole, but don't let it lay out. Then if you dig it now and you can't get it replanted or give it to someone, they need to be stored all summer in a place that has good air circulation and cool, and that's hard to find for most of us. So that's why I think it's best, of course, to wait till fall. But like I said, sometimes we transfer them, we replant them now, just have the hole ready.
Leora, didn't that happen with your when you had that leak and you had those daffodils around that?
Yes, we had our water meter. We had a leak at our water meter, and I had a whole flower garden, and this happened in January. And so we had to dig all the flowers up. I wanted to save them. Most of them were marked with their names and all. And there were daffodils and iris and a few other things too. But it happened to be a really nice day, and we laid them out on a tarp. And the next day I had my helpers come, and we found spots all around the garden and just stuck all the flowers in there. So, and some of the daffodils have bloomed this year. It didn't even stop the bloom of it. I was really pleased and surprised.
That's good, other than maybe not being labeled where you wanted them labeled, but at least you have them.
Right.
Another recommendation was from Gail, do not braid the foliage.
Exactly. That was kind of a Martha Stewart thing at one time, and other people too, but the sun still cannot reach the foliage well. So that's a no-no.
Okay. And Joe had said, I've put them in my basement. So when she did, I guess when you dig them up, Joe, or if you can undo, oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. She said, how often, depending on variety, should we divide or dig up and transplant bulbs? And that when she digs them up, she's put them in her basement. So
Okay.
how often, I guess, should you divide your bulbs or your
If you
areas?
see a lot of the bulbs, a lot of the flowers, they will start blooming on the outside of the clump. And you'll notice there's a lot of foliage and no bloom in the center. And you know that they have become too crowded. And other times you'll just get the foliage up and no flower anywhere. And that might be because there's too much shade, because the trees grow different, or you might have a different building there or something. So those would need to be dug up too and placed somewhere else. That would be a couple of reasons.
Okay. Let's see. I don't see any more. I had a question about your divisions, just for someone that would know. We were talking like 6Y and those. How would you, is there a place to look if you wanted to learn all the classifications?
Yes, the American Daffodil Society has a website,
Okay.
and there is a real good explanation there of all the divisions on their website. Also on their website, there is a section called DaffSeek, and you can look up different varieties. Like you'll see one, like say it's Van Sion that Julie talked about, and you can type in Van Sion and it will show a picture of that. So you'll know for sure, maybe it'll show several pictures sometimes, depending on how many pictures they have got on certain ones. But that way you can ID things a lot better.
Well, that would be helpful. Definitely if you're new to it. Is there
Yes.
one that you recommend, like maybe a first year to add to your garden that, is kind of tried and true, that is good for beginners that they might like, and then expand from that?
Our Time to Garden Club sold bulbs for 15 years. And so we tried to have basic ones. We only had about 5 or 6 daffodils each year. And we always had Dutch Master. It's a solid yellow. I have found in later years that one called a yellow, if you want just a yellow, solid yellow looking daffodil that looks like what everybody thinks of as a daffodil, I find that Carlton is a little bit more reliable. I don't know. It's a little bit stronger, I believe. So, and there's a lot. There are just a lot of them like that.
You add fertilizer and when on the existing bulbs, or is it necessary?
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
one more time.
Do you do fertilizing?
You're supposed to fertilize with just a little bit higher middle number for the phosphorus. I happen to always keep 624-24 here, and that's what I use a little bit. I don't put very much at all though, and maybe not even every year.
When you're first planting them, or after they're established? And what about bone meal?
Bone meal is out right now. You know how fads come and go, but right now bone meal is not recommended. But what was the other part? I forgot what she said. What else did you ask me?
When you're
planting new ones versus bother with the existing bulbs, you get more.
When you plant them, don't put the fertilizer with the bulb, because that could burn the bulb. Usually they say to plant the bulb and then sprinkle the fertilizer on top of the ground. And I do that sometimes, and sometimes I don't, depending. But the other time is when they first come up in the spring. When you first see the foliage, that's usually when I try to do it. And also now, after they bloom, it wouldn't hurt to put a little bit on then, but just don't over fertilize. A lot of them I never had fertilized.
Leora, do you see any certain like disease or anything that bothers the daffodils? No. Anything that you should watch for?
Really, we are so lucky in this area. I believe it is that we don't have disease or insect problems here. They do in other areas of the country, but not. I haven't had any. That's such a good thing.
That is good. Another one was Majo says that she puts her bulbs in a mesh bag and hangs them in the basement.
Yes,
Is that a good recommendation for you
that is
also?
probably good if it's not damp. Sometimes basements are damp, but if it's not damp, because you want it to, they could rot or something. One year I did that in a barn. What was that? Out in a barn that was open on both ends. It was ideal place. And I hung them in mesh bags from the rafters. So they stored very well out there. But I'm sure Majo would know if it's too moist or not in her basement.
Okay. Gay had asked, would you kind of answered, I think, is blood meal good to use?
No,
I think you said bone meal was not, but
neither of those are recommended. The
okay.
bone meal used to be a standard. You would add that no matter what, but I can't remember the reasons why, but I just know that they don't want you to use bone meal anymore, or blood meal, never blood meal.
Yeah, I think Lori had mentioned one time too that blood meal at the community garden had attracted some squirrels one time and had dug up
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
because of the squirrels and things. How about fish
We have-
emulsion?
I don't know. I've never tried that. I don't know. It seems like it might be too strong, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay. Has anyone else in the group used fish emulsion for your fertilizer for any of your daffodils? Carla, I see you're turned on to talk, but I'm not hearing you yet. But Joe said no, she hasn't ever used it. Oh, okay. Carla's no, got it. Okay, is there any other questions since we have kind of our experts on with all their with Leora or Julie on doing our program today? Do you have any questions? Well, we appreciate you guys doing our tour. It was wonderful to see all the different varieties and everything. I'm sorry, Diane.
Chris, yeah, it's Bill and I loved all the flowers, especially today. What great pictures to show us on such a dreary day. But I was curious, Leora, how many varieties do you have of daffodils?
At
And
one
how do you-
time, when I was keeping track, I had 800 varieties.
Oh
We
my
belong
God.
to the Greater St. Louis Daffodil Society, and every year there's a big exchange, and the club buys a lot of bulbs from the hybridizers directly from them. The hybridizers want us to try them out. So back then I was getting a really lot at a time and had a lot more, but I don't have that many now.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you have room for all those other flowers?
We have 7 acres here, but it's definitely not all tilled up. I wish it was.
When we built the house, we bought a package of daffodils, and it was 90 bulbs, and they were
Oh.
divided into bags, and they were supposed to bloom at different times, and they do. So we get early, mid, and late. Is there any one of these divisions that does it just depend on the specific cultivar? When they'll
Mostly, yes, mostly on the specific cultivar, but the jonquils do bloom later.
Okay.
The Tazetta, you have to be careful because it might bloom too soon and it can't take a lot of frost like some of the others can. So the
Okay.
Tazetta needs to be kind of planted in a little bit of a protective place. I think the others are pretty well just the average and depending on the certain one. Yeah.
Okay.
That bulbicodium that I told you did not grow here,
Yeah.
I didn't really explain that, but there's a few varieties that do grow here, but they need to be like the Tizetta. They need to be protected a little bit. It's fun to try to grow a bulbocodia because it's a strange looking flower. I should have had a picture of it maybe, but the cup is huge and the petals are just little things around the edge of the cup, and it doesn't look like a daffodil. So one year we saw at a daffodil convention, they always have a photography section, and they had these huge pictures of bulbocodiums, which my friend Ann and I had never seen before. That's where you learn everything. But we got all excited. We thought that all the picture should be a daffodil. So we reported her to somebody and discovered it was a daffodil, but one we had never seen.
And Leora, I have one more question. Is there a type of daffodil that's better for naturalizing? Like
Yeah,
those big fields that you see, like
Yeah.
Morton Arboretum has them and they just go wild there.
I know. I think that's probably more the species type would be.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
very durable. Yeah, that's probably what they would do.
It seems to me that the ones in my yard that bloom first are mostly yellow, and the white ones tend to bloom later, like now. So I guess
That could be, Beth, because I know Mount Hood, which is a very popular white, old, dependable white one. It blooms later. Yeah, that's very possible.
also the double and the multiple flowers on a stem are blooming more now than early.
Okay, yeah.
It's nice though.
Mhm. Our very last one to bloom in my garden is Baby Moon, and it is a jonquil. And when Baby Moon blooms, we know it's over here. But it's not blooming yet, so we got a little more time.
So if you want to see daffodils, I have a friend that just returned about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago from Arkansas, and he went down to P. Allen Smith
Oh,
personal property, and he provides a daffodil tour, and then you get a historical tour of his home and residence, and he serves you lunch. But he has obviously thousands and thousands and thousands of daffodils, and apparently I was very concerned it was going to be too late for him because we had our warm spell and ours were already starting to show color, and I thought, wow, going down to Little Rock, he's going to miss out, but he didn't. There were so many varieties that, like Leora says, you can get them from early to late. But so if anybody's really into it, sign up. I'm sure that sells out fast. They only have 10 or 15 people per tour, but you get to meet him and his whole story, P. Allen Smith. So that was on this gentleman's bucket list. And so he got to check that off this year.
Where in Arkansas?
Mention what he does with all those daffodils. I watched his show one time where he got the students involved with planting them out in an open field with grass and weeds and whatever. And let them propagate and look beautiful. But then if we're saying do not cut back the foliage, I've always wondered, well, how long does he let it go and not cut it down? Did he mention that at all?
Well, I don't know if he did, but in naturalizing, people usually just wait before they mow. So they're not going to mow or clear that area until June, but he has a historical type landscape. So that's not going to bother him. It's not in a formal landscape.
Right.
But Leora mentioned putting daffodils. One of our educators, Elizabeth Wally, one time spoke on she actually spoke on what you could plant with irises, but it's the same principle, to have something to foul up, to cover up the foliage until it's completely done. So yeah, I don't know if he did or not. I just saw the beautiful pictures and his excitement. So I didn't get to be on that tour. So I got the secondhand version.
Do you know where he lives in Arkansas or where this?
Well, I think it was around Little Rock. And then they went south after that, and they went to a tulip farm. So they really got a bulb tour. I don't know where they went to the tulips, but it's about in Little Rock. So I'm sure if you go on his website, there's ways to learn about what that is. I'm sure it's kind of a high-end tour. I hate to say it, but expensive probably because he serves you lunch and all kinds of fun stuff. but kind of fun.
Hank, you're on here, and Leora, you may know, one of the other questions was for pollinators such as your bees or your bees that are coming out, are daffodils and your tulips a good pollinator source as your first pollen, or are they not really a good source?
I don't see a lot of bees around. That's all I know from what I see here, but I don't think so. I may be wrong though. You guys may know. You may have different ones.
There is a 4-season telenet that's, I believe, available on YouTube from Extension, and it was bulbs for pollinators. And it might have been within the last year.
Okay.
So we can maybe look that up. I can do a little research and we can post that later, but it's called Bulbs for Pollinators, and it was Extension. So I believe it should show up as a search.
That would be interesting to know. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, I was going to tell you, you were asking about those divisions a while ago.
Yes.
If you look at some of the catalogs, they will have the bulbs by division, and they will explain, the division of what the bulb is. I know Brent and Becky's does, because I was
Okay.
just looking at that today. So the divisions, and actually see the bulbs too, or the flowers.
Okay, thank you. That will help, and especially beginners. As myself, I've bought a few and put out, but as we kind of get questions, that's always a great one to know and have a good resource on that. So thank you. One more question was, what is the May Lunch and Learn topic? Well, Hank Henderson is on, and it will be the life of a beekeeper. So some of his questions, and Hank, if you want to unmute and give her a sneak peek, you're welcome to. He's still muted, but it's going to be life of a beekeeper. So he's going to kind of give you some about his beehives. Does anybody else have anything for the ladies today? Okay, well, Julie and Leora, we appreciate your time and sharing your beautiful flowers with us today. Oh, Diane has one more. Go ahead.
Might be just clapping.
Sorry,
there.
I was clapping.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I really wanted both of them to know how much I appreciate them sharing their flowers, and this is truly, truly interesting. There's so much more to daffodils than I knew.
Thank you, Diane.
This was a very good presentation and I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed. Whoops. I really enjoyed it too. I just love daffodils. I try to get more and more different kinds, but thanks.
Oh,
Thank
and
you, Ben.
thank you guys for everything. Carla did give us the Google answer. Daffodils are wind pollinated and tend to be avoided by bees. They seek alliums or bluebells. Thank you, Carla, for helping us out with
Thank
that.
you.
All right, well, if there's no further questions, we thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you. Gail, do you have anything to add?
Just make sure we recognize that granddaughter. She did a fabulous job working with you, and I know your son also, Leora. So this was a team effort on their end. So we do appreciate all your effort.
Oh, we'll definitely pass that along, because I know Carly put a lot of hours in this just to get the words and everything in there. I didn't do any of that. She did all of it. So,
Yeah, thank
I got you yard-long beans, by the way.
oh, you did. I was
I'll
gonna
get
put,
those. I'll get those to you.
well, I know, I was told that they were at Buckeyes, so I was gonna stop there.
Yeah, we got them yesterday. We found them. So
Oh, okay.
I sent a message to Mike. So
Oh,
unrelated, folks, but gardeners, we always got to share our stuff.
Okay, well, thank you guys. We appreciate everybody today joining us. Again, next month, our topic will be on the life of a beekeeper. So any questions you have about beekeeping, and we also will be sending out this recorded version, the link to it, you're welcome to go to our YouTube channel and look at any of the past presentations or any of our programs that we've done. And we, going forward, we'll be having a beginning gardening series, and we'll be sending you that registration link that you can look at. There'll be different topics that Lori George, our extension educator, will be kind of going through for us. So thank you guys for everything today.
Thank you, Chris and Gail.
Yes.
Chris,
thanks, everyone.
Yes.
I missed a couple of things because I couldn't get on.